Hey there, and welcome. Today, we're going to get into a topic that gets a lot of buzz, but is also surrounded by a ton of mystery: labiaplasty. Our whole goal here is to just cut through the noise and give you a really clear, straightforward explainer. So get this, it's one of the fastest growing cosmetic surgeries on the planet right now. But that just brings up a huge question, right? What exactly is it, and what's behind this massive surge in popularity? Let's dive in and find out.
Okay, first things first. Before we go any further, we need to get on the same page. Let's really pin down what this procedure is all about.
So, at its core, labiaplasty is a surgical procedure designed to change the shape of the labia. Now, that could mean the inner lips, the labia minora, or the outer lips, the labia majora. But, and this is a key point, the vast majority of these procedures are focused on those inner lips.
But here's where it gets really interesting. The reasons people opt for this surgery are all over the map. We're talking about a whole mix of things, from real functional problems, to cosmetic goals, to just wanting to be more comfortable day to day. It's a super personal decision, and there's really no single right reason.
So, what are those specific reasons? What actually leads someone to start thinking about labiaplasty? Well, if you look at all the motivations, they tend to fall into two big categories.
First up, you have very real physical symptoms. We're talking about things that can really impact your life, like pain during exercise, think cycling, or during sex. It can be constant irritation or chafing from your clothes, or even making hygiene more difficult. These aren't small things. They're daily discomforts.
And then, on the other side, you've got the cosmetic and emotional side of things, which are just as valid and just as important. This could be about dealing with asymmetry, or how the inner labia look, or simply wanting a smoother silhouette. It's often tied really deeply to self-consciousness and just wanting to feel more confident.
All right, so we've got the what and the why covered. Now let's get into the how. What actually goes on during the surgery itself? Let's take a look at the two most common ways it's done.
Okay, for the most popular type of labiaplasty, surgeons usually use one of two main techniques. The first is called the trim method, and it's pretty much what it sounds like. The surgeon trims away the excess tissue along the edge. It's direct, but it can change the natural contour. The other one is the wedge technique. Here, the surgeon removes a V-shaped piece from the tissue and then brings the edges together. The big benefit of this one is that it keeps that natural-looking border. Each one has its own set of pros and cons, of course.
And look, with any kind of surgery, you absolutely have to talk about the risks. Some things are pretty common and temporary, like swelling and bruising. That's kind of expected. But you also have to be aware of the more serious, though less common possibilities, like infection, a surgeon removing too much tissue, which is called over-resection, or scarring that ends up being painful.
Okay, surgery's done. Now what? The recovery is honestly just as crucial as the procedure itself, so let's walk through what you can generally expect during that healing process.
This gives you a pretty good roadmap for healing. For the first week or two, you'll see that initial swelling and bruising start to fade away. But, and this is important, this is a marathon, not a sprint. The final settled results, you're not really going to see those until about 3 to 6 months down the line. So, patience is definitely key here.
The good news is that taking care of the area isn't super complicated. The main goals are just keeping things clean, gently patting it dry, wearing loose and comfortable clothing, and, this is a big one, avoiding any direct pressure or rubbing. It's really simple stuff that makes a huge difference.
And, of course, there are some pretty important things you have to avoid for a while. Any kind of tough workout is off limits for about 3 to 4 weeks. And for anything that puts pressure on that area, like cycling or using tampons or sexual activity, you'll need to wait about 6 weeks to give your body enough time to heal up properly.
So, after you've gone through the whole recovery journey, what's the verdict? Let's talk about what people can expect for the long haul and what patient satisfaction looks like.
So, when you look at what patients say afterwards, a pretty clear picture starts to emerge. This quote really nails it. For most people, it's a double win. They feel a real boost in their self-confidence, and they get relief from those physical symptoms that were bothering them before.
And we're not talking about a temporary fix. These results are meant to be long-lasting and stable over time. And a really crucial point for many people is that sensation is usually preserved. In fact, some people even report that it's improved once all the initial discomfort from their symptoms is gone.
So, we'll leave you with a final thought to chew on. This is a procedure that really sits at the crossroads of function and form, of medical need and personal choice. As it becomes more and more common, what does that tell us about our bigger conversations around health, wellness, and body autonomy? It's a really fascinating question, and one we're probably just beginning to explore. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.